Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all. For this video, we will discuss a critical component within an Angular project, and that is components, pun intended. Components are the building blocks of any Angular project. You cannot design an Angular application without utilizing components. You could forsake pipes or services, for example, but you can never abandon components. You must use components. And if you will not create any new components, you will be using the app component. What is a component in Angular? A component in Angular could refer to an entire web page. This entire web page could be a singular component or a portion of a web page, or a component of a web page would be a singular component. For example, this header right here could be a component. I do not know if Google designed their homepage with multiple components or if they used a singular component, but this header could be its own component, so one. This part could be a secondary component, so now we have two. And this footer could be a third component. So this singular web page could be designed from three components combined together. We could even have this as a component, this as a component, this as a component, this as a component, or combine them into a singular component, etc., etc. You can divide or segment a single web page into multiple components if you choose to do so. What is the purpose of components? Normally, components are created separately if they will be reusable. For example, in your Angular application, you have multiple web pages that utilize a search bar. Instead of designing the search bar, let us say you have 5 web pages and all 5 will use a search bar. Instead of designing the code for a single search bar 5 times, you can design this as a separate component and then integrate that component 5 times. So it would be easier for you if you code the component once and then reuse it rather than code it multiple times. That is the benefit of using components. Or if you have a repeated logo in all of your web pages, you could design that logo as its own separate component. Or if you will reuse this header in multiple web pages, you can design that as its own component. That is why components exist as building blocks to allow for conveniences and reusability. How could we design our own component, or actually create our own component? We can either create components manually. This approach I do not recommend. It is available, but I do not recommend it. However, I will cover the reason for my disagreement later on, bi'ithnillah and God willing. It is not important now. Or you can create it automatically through a command. This is the approach that we will utilize for everything in Angular. In Angular, you are able to create everything, whether it is a component, a service, or a pipe, etc., either manually or automatically. We will always resort to the automatic approach because it is simpler, but there is also another reason which I will discuss later, bi'idhnillah and God willing, throughout the course. Now I wish to show you the command so that we can create the component for this lecture, and then afterwards, bi'idhnillah and God willing, we will start coding our own component. We will design it, though most likely I will use ChatGPT's assistance because I do not enjoy CSS or styling, so I will resort to ChatGPT for assistance. I tend to enjoy coding the logic, but I do not enjoy the styling process. That is a personal preference for me. And then once we design a component, then we will tackle more advanced topics such as lifecycle hooks, decorators, and so on and so forth. For this episode, we will cover the command. How can we create or generate a component? If you recall, we created a project called Students, and that is our project, our Angular project. I will open it using Visual Studio Code, though I do highly recommend using, what was it called, WebStorm, if you are able to. We will cover what these are in the upcoming video, bi'idhnillah and God willing, so you do not have to worry about this now. Where will components be created? Remember when we discussed previously, everything will be under source, SRC, but specifically within the app folder. Everything you create will be within the app folder. If you create anything outside of the app folder, Webpack will not detect it, and thus will not be able to package it properly and bundle it in the index.html file. So everything by default will be created in under app. You have the freedom to either create subfolders and then store the components there, or you can store them under the app folder directly. Obviously, the best approach would be the categorization or subfolders. How do we create a component? Let us open the terminal. Actually, if we open the terminal in the root folder right here, I believe it will create it for us correctly. Okay. ng, because that is the command for anything in Angular, followed by the options or option, depending on the circumstances, and flags if necessary. What is the option here? We wish to generate. What do we wish to generate? We wish to generate a component. What is the name of that component? Let us call it student. This component will allow us to add students, delete students, edit student information, or read a list of students. Now, by the way, if you are too lazy, you can simply say C instead of component and G instead of generate. Both are correct. Though if you are in a professional setting, most likely you will see people use this because programmers are quite lazy. Now watch what happens if I do this. As you see here, Man, I hate these headsets. As you can see, I did not designate a subfolder. This is the name of my component. Watch what happens when I press enter. Watch here. And as you can see, I am in the root folder. I did not move or I did not change directories because this has a default path for creating the components, which is the app folder. Okay, watch here. Okay, now I am confused. As far as I recall, though this might have been updated in Angular 19 and above, but if I recall correctly, in past versions of Angular, I could be mistaken. It has been a while since I touched Angular, to be quite honest. This will create these separately. They will not be grouped in a folder. You actually had to do this. Again, I could be mistaken. I could be misremembering. You had to name the subfolder in app / the name of the component. But it seems that with Angular 19, it creates the subfolder for you automatically. So that is amazing. And as you can see, it creates the CSS file for the component, which is then consolidated into this one right here. This is for testing purposes. We will cover that at the extreme end of the course. This is the TypeScript folder, and this is the HTML file. Sorry, TypeScript file and HTML file. And that is it. We have successfully created a component. We will end it here, and then I will show you how to view this component in the later videos, bi'idhnillah and God willing, because I wish to cover this file and explain what this is before I actually show you how to view a component, and then delve into the designing process from there. And that is it for this video. I hope this lecture was helpful and beneficial to you all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Be safe, take care, and peace be upon you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.